Hello everyone.
Pues buenos días a
Thank you for
todos.
having us in your beautiful
Muchas
city.
gracias por
The
invitarnos a
first
esta
time
gran
I've been to
ciudad.
Madrid
Es la
and
primera
I've
vez que vengo a
absolutely loved
Madrid
it,
y la
so
verdad me
thank you.
encanta.
Unfortunately, I have
Así
to
que
go back
muchas
in 2
gracias. Por
days.
desgracia tendré que volver a casa en un par de días, pero bueno.
But just onto simplicity.
Bueno, vamos a hablar de la sencillez, de la simplicidad.
I'm not sure if you find life hard.
No sé si os parece que
You
la
think
vida
it's
es
difficult
dura.
every day when you wake up?
¿Queréis?
Maybe you don't. Maybe you have the best agency and the best teams and the best clients.
A lo mejor
It doesn't always work like that, right?
siempre tenéis los mejores clientes, los mejores,
I mean,
las mejores
the world
agencias
has
de
become
venta. El mundo
more and more
se está
complicated.
volviendo cada vez más complicado.
Every day we get up and we try and
Cada día nos
fine-tune what it is we're
levantamos
doing
y
to
tratamos
make
de
it
averiguar qué es lo que
that
estamos
much
haciendo,
better than it was
qué
yesterday.
podemos hacer para que sea
But how
mejor
much
que
are
ayer.
we actually achieving?
Pero realmente, ¿qué es lo que estamos consiguiendo?
In days gone by, when there was still a bartering
Y hay
system
veces
in
en que
place,
tenemos días en que,
things were simple.
bueno,
You
los
would
días
create a product,
anteriormente las cosas
there
eran
was
más
a demand for
sencillas,
that
creabas
product,
un
and then you would
producto, había una
trade
demanda para
that
ese
product for other goods,
producto y
right?
ahí podíamos comercializarlo por
Simple.
otros productos, mucho más fácil.
I'd like to look at a loaf of bread,
Me
just to
gustaría ver, por
explain
ejemplo,
the
si
story
hablamos
a
de
bit
una
more
barra de pan,
clearly.
por ejemplo, para explicar esta historia de una forma más clara.
So that's the product.
Bueno, este sería el producto.
You may want to buy this piece of bread. Why?
Puede que
Maybe it
queremos
looks good to you. Maybe
este
you like
pan.
white
¿Por
bread.
qué? Porque a lo mejor os gusta el pan de
Maybe you're
molde.
just hungry.
A lo mejor simplemente tienes hambre.
But what happens
Pero ¿qué pasaría?
if we put a plastic bag
¿Qué pasa si lo
around this bread?
ponemos dentro de una
Do you
bolsa de plástico?
feel like you want to buy this bread more
¿Sigues
than the
teniendo
bread
esa
you saw
sensación?
earlier?
¿Queréis comprar más
Why is
ahora
that?
este pan o
Maybe
menos?
the bread is
¿Y por
cleaner
qué?
for
Porque
you.
ahora os parece más
Maybe
limpio,
the
a lo
bread
mejor.
will last longer.
A lo mejor va a
You'll
durar
save
más
some money.
tiempo y se puede ahorrar algo de dinero.
But the problem was that lots of people were
El
producing
problema
bread,
es que hay mucha gente que estaba produciendo
and now
pan
it
en ese
became really
momento
difficult to
y
sell
ahora
it. So what
se vuelve
next?
mucho más complicado el vender.
Well, some
Así que
very
¿cuál es el
smart
siguiente
person
paso?
decided
Bueno, pues alguna persona muy
That you couldn't
inteligente
cut your own bread,
decidió
and we'd cut it for you.
que lo que podíamos hacer era cortarlo.
Have you ever heard the expression, the best thing since sliced bread?
La expresión, las mejores cosas son
I mean, we could always do
como
this
el pan
ourselves,
cortado.
but somebody decided they needed to do this thing for you.
Alguien
Is
decidió
this
hacer
bread
esto
more
por ti.
attractive than the
Y
other
ahora
bread
es
that I'm
más
showing you?
atractivo que el otro pan de molde
Sure.
que habíamos visto antes.
But we didn't stop there.
Pero
We
no
kept
pararon ahí.
pursuing the
Seguimos.
perfection of bread.
Intentamos buscar la
How do we sell
perfección con
more?
respecto al pan. ¿Cómo podemos vender todavía más pan?
And today, if you go and
Y
buy
hoy en
bread,
día, si vas a comprar
there's
pan,
lots to choose from, and I get very
muchos tipos
confused.
de
In
pan de
fact, I
molde
was going out for
distintos
dinner last
para
night, and I was a little late.
elegir.
And I
Y de
said
hecho
to
ayer
James, look,
salí a
I must go
cenar
and buy this bread, please can I go and
y
buy it? He
pasé
said, well, 5
por un
minutes,
sitio
I'm
donde
sure
había
we'll be fine.
pan y entonces pensé,
So we
bueno,
went into the
voy a
supermarket,
echar un
and we
ojo al
started looking for the
supermercado y
right bread
empecé a ver el pan
to
de
show
molde.
you. But it was hard, because there were so many breads.
Había tantas
Each bread
marcas
had a
distintas,
different
había
thing that was trying
tipos,
to tell me
tantos
this
tipos
bread was
distintos.
sweet and that was more
Uno
healthy.
era más
And
saludable
we were
para
late for
ti,
dinner.
otro tenía otras cosas, así que al final
Anyway,
acabé llegando
long
tarde
story
a la
short,
cena.
here's the bread.
Pero bueno, este es el
And just to prove my point,
y solamente
on the
para
front,
demostrar este
for
punto
all
que estoy
the things
intentando
I've spoken
transmitir.
about, but there's, I think this is in Spanish, so I can't really understand
Lo
it.
siento porque lo
But
pone en español, con lo cual no lo puedo
it's got
entender.
stuff going on here.
Pero
Reasons
tiene
why.
algo dentro.
Why I should buy this bread.
Razones
4
por las que
things.
habría que
And it's quite
comprar
convincing. And on the
este
side here, it's got all
pan.
the
Y la verdad
ingredients.
parece
And you
muy
turn it over and
convincente,
it's like
así
a
que-
novel.
Y cuando le das la vuelta parece casi una novela lo que
And
hay
that's
escrito
where
ahí.
we've arrived.
Y así
And some
es el
may
punto
say
al que
this
hemos
is
llegado. Y
effective.
algunos pueden decir, bueno,
This
esto
is
es eficacia.
fine-tuning bread
Esto es un pan
over
que
and
funciona
over
bien.
until it's perfect.
Y
Now,
queremos
I haven't actually done this
que
test
llegue a
yet,
ser
so it's a live
perfecto.
demonstration.
Pero vamos a, esta
I'm
es
going
una
to see if this
demostración
bread
en vivo.
tastes different to the bread I
Así que
have at
voy a
home,
ver
which doesn't have any of this
si
stuff on
de
it.
alguna forma el sabor es distinto al que yo tenía al principio. Vamos a comprobarlo.
No, it's the same.
No, realmente es el mismo.
So, I'm not sure
El sabor es
what this
igual.
pursuit
Así que
is
no
trying to
sé qué es
achieve.
lo que estamos intentando
And
conseguir
James
con
will go
todo
into a
esto.
bit more detail around effectiveness, and maybe there's a different way we should be looking at
Pues
things.
hemos hablado hemos puesto más detalles aquí, pero ahora
Okay.
os podemos contar
Can you hear
o
me?
para
So,
dar un poquito más de detalle de qué
Did
es lo
your
que
mother
queremos
not
decir
teach
con la
you not to
eficacia.
speak with your mouth full of
Bueno, ¿no te
food?
enseñó tu madre a no hablar con la boca llena mientras estás comiendo?
Okay, I think the point that Mark is
Bueno,
trying
creo
to
que
make
Marc lo que estaba
is
intentando
that
comentaros
it's a very
es que
complicated world and
es
it's
un mundo
very
muy
difficult to
complicado
achieve
y es muy
success.
difícil conseguir el éxito.
And when we were asked to come through and give a
Y cuando nos
presentation on
pidieron que viniésemos
effectiveness,
aquí y
we thought that we would bypass the usual case study and talk about effectiveness within the sub-Saharan African region. So for us, effectiveness is the constant pursuit to save time, make a little bit more money, increase your market share, and this is something that is actually quite easy to do. I'm sure every single person in this auditorium is very good at effectiveness. Otherwise you wouldn't have the high-paying jobs that you do. However, effectiveness is just small levels of improvement. It's very much along the lines of the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen. And I don't know if you've heard of Kaizen or not, but I applied in our agency to get our people to improve in all the areas they operate in. And the philosophy of Kaizen is to take many small steps in the right direction, and you will eventually, by taking many small steps, climb that mountain and achieve success. Toyota did that very well in Japan by applying Kaizen. It went from Jap crap, it was known as rubbish in the 60s, and today they produce vehicles like Lexus. So this sounds very simple to do, but what I'd like us to do is to take a step back and talk about, where's my clicker? I missed the first slide. Don't worry, Mark, I won't miss the next one. We've spoken about effectiveness. I want us to take a step back and to talk now about being effective. Now, this is a time and money thing, save time, make money, etc. We can all improve effectiveness with small tweaks, as I've said. But to be effective is something else. It is more difficult. It's not a generic term of effectiveness, but to be effective requires a lot more work. It sounds harder. It's the kind of thing our clients say to us as agencies. You must be effective. Bring me a case study. I want to see the results of how effective you are. And provide the evidence. And I know this is very much a cliche, but Uber and Airbnb are very good at being effective. They solve the problem that we encounter. This is not a gradual thing of effectiveness, it's moving on the concept. So no doubt. But I'd like to simplify this word even more. Effect. When last did you cause effect on this planet? Really have a tremendous impact on the people around you. And so you can see us distill the concept of effectiveness to being effective to actually causing effect. This is very difficult. It's not about small tweaks and small improvements. It's not about saving time or money. Effect changes lives. So how do we cause effect? How do brands and agencies actually have an impact on this world and cause effect? Perhaps Mr. Trump's wall in Mexico will cause effect. But seriously, the difference between effect and effectiveness is what separates the first world from Africa. And we operate in South Africa, which is the most industrialized and modern economy on the continent, by a long shot. But we are starting to see the impact within the South African context of all the challenges in sub-Saharan Africa starting to come down to the southern tip of our country, of our continent rather. So in the developed world, everything is about effectiveness and improvement. However, in Africa, the quest is to cause effect. And this is a social and cultural mindset. And in Africa, tech doesn't act the same way as it does here. Technology in your world has become a dependence. I'm sure everyone here will agree. And everyone here has a cell phone. Now, can you imagine what would happen if the networks came down in Madrid for one day? I'm sure there's some people in this crowd who will miss a Tinder date today. And there are others who will miss an Uber ride. And many people will no longer be able to check their email, know where they're going, check their diary. It's an absolute disaster. Now, imagine losing the internet for 1 week, and even worse, having no electricity for 1 week. Now, in South Africa, as I said, is the most industrialized country, we had for many years underinvestment in our power plants, and after strong growth in the early 2000s, we didn't have enough electricity to supply the demand. So we entered into a thing called load shedding. It's very real. And we as business owners had to know to operate that between 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning and 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, we will have no power. So our dependence on technology had to be adjusted, the African way. So in Africa, things go on. Life is not built around dependence. We are very resilient in Africa. We have found ways to accommodate the challenges that surround us in the country. So this pursuit of effectiveness we have in Europe and North America and in the West has made us slaves to technology. It has made us complacent. And what I mean by that is many of us have forgotten to cause effect. And I'm getting to the point we're going to make very soon around this concept. It's very profound, and Africans are not complacent in this regard.
So when it comes to complacency, as James says, a lot of African people are not complacent. They have to make do with what they have. And the world goes on. And here's some quick examples. So in Africa, telcos are power plant players, possibly. Because if there's no electricity, you can't operate as a telco. So what do you need to do? You need to fix the electricity problem in order for your business to move forward. In Africa, NGOs have to be data providers. So besides zero ratings, they might be moving into a region where there's no information. They can't call up the information, they can't look at past case studies, they can't get insights, they can't get big data, they can't get the stuff. They have to do it themselves very often. In Africa, banks are sometimes telcos. There are regions in Africa where telcos were unable to get licenses to operate, but banks were operating in those regions, and they wanted to get banking to their customers. So what did they do? They developed telco companies so they could service their clients with banking. Healthcare providers sometimes have to be used car parts dealers. I know it sounds really strange, but if you have a fleet of ambulances, what happens if things go wrong with that vehicle in the middle of nowhere and it needs to be fixed and you need to still save lives? Well, possibly you have to stock the parts to make sure that these vehicles keep moving. And this is hypothetical, but I'm sure there are countries where if Uber was going to enter those countries, they would have to think about being part of roads development in order for them to operate before anyone would even consider calling an Uber. So I'm just going to play a little video for you around, there's a lot of copy shops, photostat shops in Africa. And what there isn't a lot of, in parts of Africa, are books. And how do people get the information they so desperately need when sometimes there isn't the internet for them?
This is X. He needs a book for his studies, but he just can't find it. Luckily, Marc's coffee shop uses paper right. A paper-right coffee shop has a whole library of books, magazines, and other documents on his computer. Zakes pays Maggie, and Maggie uses paper-right to pay the publisher. Everyone's happy. Paper-right. Turn your coffee shop into a bookshop.
So a very simple example of
Así que este es un ejemplo muy simple de cómo podemos resolver un problema. Tenemos un problema de distribución, etc. Con lo cual lo que hacemos es vamos a nuestra cafetería y ahí podemos imprimir nuestro libro. Hay que pensar que no somos ordenadores, con lo cual a veces nos equivocamos.
Yeah. Okay, so for agencies, it's exactly the same. Agencies need to be utility-centric. Agencies really must deliver utility before they can open the branding opportunity. If brands don't deliver utility, they don't stand a chance. So the agencies in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa must assist their clients to provide that utility solution. Once utility is accessible, you apply the branding, and it's a far stronger connection between the consumer and the brand. We also need to operationalize our teams to not only be creative directors, but societal champions as well. So, to cause effect in Africa, agencies need to be champions of change. And they also need to be deeply connected to communities on the ground. Can I have my clicker, please? Oh, you don't. Okay.
So this is a really good example an agency back home developed. And it was for a paying channel. And what a lot of informal settlements homes have on the building are satellite dishes. And one of the issues they were having is because there are no roads invariably, and there's no address for these homes, when people called for help was unable to be, they were unable to send an ambulance to help people in need. I mean, here in Spain, if something was wrong with you, you would literally pick up your phone and phone the hospital, somebody else would do it for you, and in no time an ambulance would be there, right? But this is what an agency kind of came up with, which I think is a really genius idea to solve a social problem. So that's what an informal settlement looks like, if you don't know. And somewhere on that page is a man having a heart attack. And he has 15 minutes to live. Where is he? This is
asistencia en menos de 15 minutos. ¿Dónde vamos? ¿Cómo
And
resolvemos?
when you phone the police don't come in time.
Njengokubabuza ndike ndanayo ingxaki efunisa uncedo oluphuthumayo ngazama beambulensi ndathi ndibayalela ukuthi bafune inamba ye-162 kodwa kwaba nzima ukuthi ndiyibone.
A lot of the time when you arrive at an incident or arrive at the area where you expect an incident to be, the houses aren't clearly marked.
Inkinga yokuthi singabi nazo inamba ezibonakala ngokucacileyo ukuthi naxa abantu besifuna abakhona ukusithola nokuba ngaba sebefuna idilesi esitholakala kuzo abakhona ukusibona bahamba izitrato bangasiboni.
And we was waiting for the ambulance, and the ambulance didn't come in time. I lost my daughter.
Ukufakwa kwenamba ebonakalayo kuza kwenza ukuthi nditholakale kalula kuwo umuntu ondifunayo. Ndiyalele ukuthi ubheke inamba ebhalwe ngokukhulu inamba 162 ube lula kuwo.
I think the idea of the satellite dishes is very good.
Ngumbono obemhle nobaluleke kakhulu nesivuyelwayo ukuthi sawufumaneka lula nabantu besifunayo.
getting healthcare to the people.
Así que una gran forma de hacer que llegue la asistencia sanitaria a la gente.
So only when technology is accessible can
Solo
it
cuando
really
la
provide
tecnología realmente
utilities
es
of the point
accesible
we're making.
puede aportar este servicio básico. Eso es lo que
Now,
queremos.
solar panels on a billboard feel like a strange
Comunicar
thing.
aquí.
I mean, what's their purpose? Is it to
Bueno,
light
hay
the billboard
veces en que
at night?
pensamos
Well, what
en
happens
que
if
determinadas cosas
you
no
could
tenemos
really
demasiado claro para qué van a servir,
billboards
pero hay
have a
veces
different use?
en que podemos
Now, this
utilizar,
billboard
por
was done
ejemplo,
quite a
los
few
paneles
years
de
ago.
anuncios
It was one of the first
y darles
billboards
una
with solar
utilización
panels.
distinta. Por ejemplo,
And
este de aquí hemos
it was,
visto que tiene
erected
paneles
outside a
solares
school.
y que además se
And
puso
what
justo
it
en
did
la puerta de un
was it
colegio
ran
y que lo consiguió
the kitchen, the electricity in the kitchen, and provided
es
the kids
dar la
with
electricidad,
meals
proporcionar
while they were
la
at school. It was very
electricidad
often
para el
kids
colegio.
didn't,
De hecho,
they
para las
didn't
cocinas
get
del
the right kind
colegio.
of feeding at home, possibly.
Además,
or they
estamos
didn't
hablando
come to
de
school with
niños que
lunchboxes.
probablemente en sus casas no están recibiendo la alimentación apropiada, con lo cual
Water
eso
is a big
significó
problem in Africa. I'm
un
sure
gran
you've
avance.
seen lots
También el
of
agua es un gran
images or
problema en
films where
África, lo habéis
people
visto
carry
seguro en
water
muchas
for great
películas,
distances,
en que la gente tiene que llevar el agua
every day,
y
really.
recorrer grandes distancias desde
So
los
how could
pozos.
our work
Así que ¿cómo
help
podemos hacer
this
que
problem?
nuestro
How could we
trabajo
create
como
some real
publicistas
effect around this
tenga
solution?
un
As opposed to
efecto?
just putting a billboard up there that talks
Pues,
to
por ejemplo, si
whatever it is
ponemos
you're trying
un
to
panel
sell.
sobre cualquier
What
cosa que
happens
alguien
if the
quiera
billboard
vender, ¿qué
starts
pasa
to
si este
capture
panel de
water
anuncios
and filter the
también
water for
sirve para
drinking?
capturar, para
This idea
retener
is being
agua
used in India
y
and
además
Africa
para
quite
filtrarlo?
successfully.
Y esto se está utilizando, por ejemplo, en
Images
India y también en
around the
África
work. I think the
con
work
mucho
and the
éxito.
alignment of the work and the water could be a little bit better. And then
Y por
moving the
supuesto,
water from this outdoor
cómo
piece back home,
transportamos
again,
el agua
is another
a
opportunity
nuestras
for
casas,
brands.
pues ahí otra
We've
vez
seen
tenemos
people carrying
otra
water in this
posibilidad
way for
para las
many, many
marcas.
years.
Hemos visto que la gente lleva el
But
agua
some
así
very smart
y lleva
companies
haciéndolo
decided
años y años.
that
Así
we
que
need to
una
make
empresa,
a real difference in these people's
nosotros como
lives.
empresa, de hecho, decidimos que
And they
teníamos
create
que
this
cambiar
device,
un
which
poquito
is the
la
same
vida de la
thing,
gente y lo que se
just
hizo
turned
fue
on its side,
crear
and the handle
este
is
tipo de
attached to
barril
it, and you pull it or
que
push it
funciona en el
to your
fondo es lo mismo,
destination.
solo que aquí
Not
lo
only
puedes
is it really
empujar, lo puedes
easy,
llevar
you can
realmente a tu
actually
destino.
carry more water.
Y no solamente es que sea más
And
fácil,
if you
sino que además
attach
puedes
a
llevar
brand
más agua. Y
to
si
this
además
kind of
pones ahí
device,
tu marca,
I
este tipo
think
de
the
dispositivo,
audience would be far more
creo
receptive
que vuestra
to
audiencia
your
será
message.
mucho más receptiva a cuál
Again,
es el
to
mensaje
the
que
point that
tenéis.
it's not interrupting them, it's actually adding value.
Entonces, en el momento en que no solo está interactuando con ellos, sino que además
And
está añadiendo,
Wi-Fi
está
is not
creando
always
valor.
accessible.
Por ejemplo,
So
otra
how do we make
aplicación, no siempre
Wi-Fi
tenemos
accessible to
wifi
people? Now, this is not a new
en
idea,
África. ¿Y cómo
but
podemos
you know, if there's screens
traerlo a
that
estas
consumers could
zonas? Por
interact with
ejemplo,
at taxi
si
ranks,
tenemos
and
estas
there's a code on the
pantallas,
screen which
podemos
asks
hacer
them
que
to
se
look at some
interactúe
work
con ellos.
and possibly engage with that work, and they get half an hour of free data for doing
Por
so.
ejemplo, si
Again,
alguien que está
adding value
trabajando,
and being
podemos darle
quite effective
media hora
around
gratuita
the solution.
de wifi, puede ayudarles también. Es otra forma muy ingeniosa de ayudar, de contribuir.
So we can see that Africa
Así
has
podemos
many
ver que en
challenges,
África
but
hay
there's a
muchos
great deal of
desafíos,
positivity
pero
out
también
there.
hay mucha
And,
positividad en el ambiente.
If you look at education as
Así
an
que si vemos la
example,
educación como
this is a great text case situation
este es un
of
gran ejemplo
where schools have a challenge
en que los colegios tenían el
acquiring
desafío
educational
de
information.
poder
And it's a big problem throughout the continent, but specifically in sub-Saharan Africa.
información educativa,
And
que es
so
muy importante en
an
todos los países, pero
agency in
especialmente
South
importante
Africa
en los países del continente
recommended to the
africano.
Times, who's a big
Así que Sudáfrica,
telco cellular
hablando con una
provider,
gran empresa de
to zero-rate
telecomunicaciones,
access to Wikipedia,
hablamos de que tenían
effectively meaning
una
that
tasa
for
de
free,
acceso
anybody with a cell phone,
Wikipedia
not just a
era
smartphone, but
cero
any simple
pesos, su tasa de
device,
acceso
can
era cero.
access the text
Así
in
que empezaron
Wikipedia
a
for
pensar cómo
information.
podemos hacer si todo el
And that
mundo
is what we talk about
tenga a través de sus
when
dispositivos móviles
we're talking
acceso a
about causing
Wikipedia.
effect as opposed to being effective. This is
Y
a
eso es lo que
huge impact on
Esto
people's
tenía un
lives.
gran impacto en la vida de las personas simplemente con el teléfono que poder acceder directamente a Wikipedia.
So you have to create effect before you
Así
can
que hay
get
que
considered
crear
to
un
be effective.
efecto antes de pensar en si somos eficaces.
So agencies need to help
Así que las
brands
agencias
be
deben
more than
ayudar
the
a las
sponsors of
marcas
the effect,
ser algo,
but also to
ser
position
más
them as
que
enablers of the
simplemente
effect.
los que traen un efecto determinado. Tienen que ser los posibilitadores de ese
Brands
efecto.
thrive through a mutual value,
Las marcas,
exchange of value at scale.
como tienen
Let us
éxito,
take
es
the
a
Tiger
través de
Alphabet,
un
for example.
intercambio
Tiger Brands is the largest FMCG company in South Africa, very similar to Unilever, and they have created a utility around their products, and they also solve the education problem in South Africa, contributed towards the solve of that, and have a little video explaining what they did.
Across South Africa, 65% of learners cannot read, and in most cases, naming the letters of the alphabet is a challenge. With a lack of proper foundations in literacy, and with most teachers not having the right educational tools, the majority of children struggle throughout school. But what if you could take brands that South Africans love and see every day, brands that they're so familiar with before they even start school, and use them to make an actual difference, like teach kids to read and write. So we created the Tiger Alphabet, an alphabet made up of South Africa's most loved brands from the largest FMCG company in Africa, Tiger Brands. Using the first letter from each brand, we created an entire alphabet. From books that doubled up as classroom wraps, to posters, alphabetical blocks, key cards and stickers, we rolled out the alphabet in schools that needed it the most.
They match the picture with the letter, and it becomes easier for them to recall or to pronounce the word.
It's changing the way our children are learning to read.
We also took it outside classrooms and created science in and around their communities. The Tiger Alphabet is becoming an institution that will have a massive positive impact on our children's ability to read and write for years to come. Plans are already underway to roll it out into more schools in the hope that our country's iconic brands can help teachers educate future children their ABCs.
The next example is for a retailer, and it was a very simple job that actually came across our desk to advertise Afrikaans products. Now, Afrikaans is a language in South Africa, and they just have quite a wide range of it. So we thought that's not really going to be much of a job, because the truth is people really love and believe in their language, and you really have to convince them that you care as a brand about their language as well. So what we did is we found this community in Patagonia that left South Africa many years ago, and they were desperately trying to hold onto Afrikaans. So we thought it would be a really great idea to send them a whole lot of Afrikaans products to revitalize the Afrikaans language in Patagonia.
We wanted to create awareness about CNA's wide range of Afrikaans products. Afrikaans people are passionate about their language. CNA has a wide range of Afrikaans books, music, DVDs and magazines that can keep that passion alive. We heard about a small Afrikaans community in South America who fled South Africa during the war in the early 1900s. Because this community has never been to South Africa and don't have any access to Afrikaans material, it's been difficult for them to preserve their Afrikaans language and culture. DVDs and music to them to breathe new life into their lives and language. The event stretched over a 5-day period. We filmed their reactions as they got their hands on Afrikaans material for the first time in their lives. We used the footage to create short documentaries and TV ads that were used in the South African market. We gave them all sorts of Afrikaans material, including cookbooks, magazines, music, and even a donation to the local library. Some people were so touched by the campaign that they started sending their own Afrikaans material to the South Americans.
So, as you can see, the concept of today is to move things along, to distill from effectiveness in general to being effective, to causing effect. And causing effect has tremendous impact on the people on the ground in the communities. So, we hope that was insightful. We'd like to say that the next time your client or agency challenges you on effectiveness, you turn around and challenge them on effect. Thank you.